This video is about the first landing on the moon. There won't be any conspiracy theories, but in the end I will give you an urban legend, a modern legend, just to show you that history can be fun and sometimes weird. Anyway, the first landing on the moon was on the 20th of July 1969, and a few hours later, but then a day later, Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon. He was followed by Buzz Aldrin, and last but not least, involved in the Apollo 11 mission was Michael Collins. He was in the command module whilst the two other were on the moon. To the background, the first ballistic missiles were used in World War II. The Germans were firing them on London. Shortly after the Second World War, the Cold War emerged with the superpowers United States and Soviet Union. Both sides wanted to have a proper missile program, and they used German knowledge to advance their missile program. The US could be quite lucky because they could win Wernher von Braun and his team, and Wernher von Braun was significantly involved in developing and designing the missiles that should bring US astronauts to space. But the Soviets in the beginning were always first. They had the first satellite in orbit, the US followed, and then the Soviets had the first astronaut in orbit, or how they call them, cosmonaut. The US followed, but it is not nice always to be second. So Kennedy said on the 25th of May 1961, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." Then there was nearly a decade of commitment, and in 1969 the Apollo 11 mission could start. Apollo 11 was launched on the 16th of July 1332 Zulu time. A few days later, Apollo 11 arrived at the moon, and then the landing craft Eagle actually arrived on the lunar surface on the 20th of July 2017. A few hours later, Armstrong left the landing craft and actually stepped as the first human being on the lunar surface. They said, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Then a bit of work had to go on, scientific stuff, collecting lunar rocks and similar things. They could return, and on the 24th of July 1650, the command module was safely back to Earth, back to the Pacific. Now there was a massive media coverage. 600 million viewers followed the moon landing live via television. That was 50% of all television sets. After the astronauts came back to the US, there were massive parades in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and international celebrations. This achievement, landing a man on the moon, caused global enthusiasm. There were 5 more lunar missions during the 20th century. In total, 12 men walked on the moon. And the United States could win had a significant victory during the Cold War against the Soviet Union. Now, as promised, the urban legend. When Armstrong was young, he loved to play baseball and played baseball in his neighborhood. One of his neighbors were the Gorskys. And then he heard while playing baseball from the Gorskys' bedroom, Mrs. Gorsky saying, "You want oral sex?" when the kid next door walks on the moon. Now the decades went by. As you've just seen, Armstrong landed on the moon, and there he should have said, "Good luck, Mr. Gorsky." But alright, that is an urban legend, never confirmed by Armstrong, so don't take it with a pinch of salt, take it with a huge spoon of salt. That was the first moon landing in 5.